Mumbai. A city of dreams. A city of collisions. A city built by millions, yet claimed by none. Behind the skyline, behind the traffic, behind the voices shouting in 10 different tongues, there's a quieter battle. Not one of bullets, but of belonging. Not one of war cries, but of whispers. In one language, fading. This is Maharashtra. And this is the war over Marathi. To understand how we got here, we have to go back. Way back. Before Maharashtra was even a state. Before Mumbai was called Mumbai. Back then, this land was part of the Bombay Presidency, ruled by the British, filled with Gujaratis, Marathis, Parsis, Konkanis, speaking in 100 different tongues. But as power shifted, language mattered more. And slowly, Marathi voices began to feel small. Outnumbered in jobs. Outsourced in schools. Outshout in their own homes. Marathi speakers watched others rise, in business, in administration, in influence. And a silent fear crept in. Will our language survive? After India gained independence in 1947, the idea of linguistic states emerged. Each region would get its own identity, its own language, its own voice. For Marathi speakers, this was their moment. Their dream, Samyukta Maharashtra. A united state for all Marathi speakers. With Mumbai, the cultural and economic heart, as its crown. But there was resistance. Bombay was powerful. Too powerful to let go. Gujarati leaders wanted it. Business lobbies fought to keep it independent. Even the central government hesitated. And so, protests erupted. Marches filled the streets. The Samyukta Maharashtra movement was born. There were slogans, songs, and sacrifice. Over 100 protesters were shot dead in police firing. But the movement didn't stop. It couldn't. And then, on May 1, 1960, the demand was met. Maharashtra was formed. Mumbai became its capital. It felt like victory. But in truth, it was only the beginning. It wasn't just about language anymore. It had grown into something much deeper. Something that cut into the soul of every Marathi man and woman. It was about identity. It was about dignity. It was about the right to exist, without apology. By the late 1940s, Marathi speakers had lived through decades of being sidelined in their own land. In Bombay, the city they built with their sweat and labor. Signboards in English and Gujarati stared down at them from every corner. Government offices rarely used Marathi. Jobs in the city often went to outsiders. And slowly, painfully, Marathi voices began to feel like whispers in their own home. The seeds of protest were already in the soil. Farmers in the drought-hit fields of Vidarbha spoke of it. Textile workers in Mumbai's mill district spoke of it. Poets, school teachers, students. All carried the same quiet fire in their hearts. And one name began to echo above the noise. Samyukta Maharashtra. A united Maharashtra. A state for Marathi people, by Marathi people. But this dream was not met with open arms. The central government in Delhi argued that Bombay, the beating heart of commerce, should be separated and turned into a union territory. Some Gujarati leaders believed Bombay was theirs to claim. Business magnates feared that dividing the city along linguistic lines would tear apart the financial empire they had built. So the resistance began. Not as a slow simmer, but as a rising wave. It surged through speeches made in dusty village squares. It roared through the marches of students down the narrow lanes of Pune. It spilled into the textile mills, where workers locked the gates in defiance. On the streets of Gurgaon and Lalbagh, shopkeepers closed their shutters in silent protest. In the lecture halls of Mumbai University, young voices debated, shouted, demanded change. Poets turned their verses into weapons. Songs became battle cries. Walls were painted with slogans under the cover of darkness. Ordinary people, men, women, children, marched until their feet bled. Some went without food for days in hunger strikes. Some faced the batons of police without flinching. Some never returned home. Yet the dream refused to die. It burned brighter with every sacrifice. For in the hearts of those who fought, Samyukta Maharashtra was more than a state. It was a promise. A promise that their children would never again feel like strangers in their own land. The 1950s in Maharashtra were not quiet years. They were loud. They were turbulent. They were soaked in the cries of a people who had decided, enough was enough. Every street in Mumbai seemed to carry the same heartbeat. From the crowded lanes of Dadar to the shadow of the gateway of India, voices rose in unison. Samyukta Maharashtra Zindabad. But the government in Delhi was unmoved. Reports were filed. Committees were formed. And yet, the demands were delayed, again and again. The protests began small. A group of students here. A rally of workers there. But with each delay, with each dismissal of their voices, the movement grew angrier and stronger. Police barricades became familiar sights. So did the sound of boots on the pavement. And then came the lathis. The crack of wooden batons on human flesh. The sting of tear gas drifting through narrow alleyways. The streets ran, not with silence, but with the noise of defiance. January 1956. The Samyukta Maharashtra Samiti called for a massive rally in Mumbai. Tens of thousands flooded the city's heart. Men in white Gandhi caps. Women draped in crisp cotton saris. Children clutching the hands of their parents. Their small eyes wide with the electricity of the moment. But what began as a peaceful show of strength would soon be carved into the city's memory as a day of blood. Police opened fire. Bullets tore through the smoke and shouting. People scattered, but the crowd was too dense. 15 lives were cut short that day. 15 martyrs. Their names etched into the movement's soul. And yet, the bullets did not kill the dream. They sharpened it. They turned grief into resolve. Across Maharashtra, funerals became rallies. Mothers who buried their sons stood in public squares and told the crowds, "We will not stop." Artists painted the faces of the dead on walls. Poets wrote verses that made even the strong weep. The message was clear. The fight for Samyukta Maharashtra would not be silenced, no matter the price. By the late 1950s, the fight had been raging for nearly a decade. The Samyukta Maharashtra movement was no longer just a political demand. It was the heartbeat of an entire region. Every delay from Delhi only added fuel to the fire. Every speech from the leaders was met with chants that shook the very walls of assembly halls. The people were no longer asking. They were demanding. 1959. The city of Mumbai was at a boiling point. The textile mills buzzed with whispers of strikes. College campuses became hubs of political energy. From farmers in the Konkan to traders in Pune, the demand was the same. Mumbai belongs to Maharashtra. The pressure was unbearable. The central government knew that the longer they resisted, the more dangerous the unrest could become. And so, in early 1960, a decision was made. the State Reorganization Bill was passed. Maharashtra would be born. And Mumbai would be its heart. But even in victory, the road was not smooth. The formation of the new state was paired with the creation of Gujarat. Friends and neighbors found themselves on opposite sides of a fresh border. The joy of winning Maharashtra was tinged with the bittersweet taste of what had been lost in the process. Then came the day. May 1, 1960. From dawn, the streets of Mumbai pulsed with celebration. Flags of saffron and red fluttered from rooftops. Processions moved through every corner of the city. The air was thick with the smell of incense and fresh marigold garlands. Drums echoed. Conches blew. And when the official announcement came, tears flowed freely. The martyrs were remembered. Their portraits carried in the front of every parade. On that day, the people of Maharashtra did not just gain a state. They reclaimed their identity. And yet, as the celebrations faded into night, a quiet understanding remained that the fight for language, culture, and dignity is never truly over. It simply changes form. It waits for the next generation to carry it forward.